Hey everyone, Wags here from Eagle Dynamics. In this DCS F-16C Viper video, we'll discuss visual initial points or VIP and visual reference points or VRP. These are valuable tools for setting up your attack on a known location or an offset location based on a bearing, range, and elevation. This is one of the more complex features of the Viper, so strap on your thinking caps. All right, so let's first take a look at a visual initial point or VIP. And we'll do that by first going to the mission editor and taking a look at our route. Right, so here we are in the mission editor, and we can see that we're in the Persian Gulf map. We have our flight route. We have a hawk site, which is going to be our target, and Lavon Island up to the north. So as we talked about at the start, any steer point can have an OA1 or an OA2, which we talked about in a previous video, as well as a VIP or a VRP. And in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to assign steer point 2 with a VIP. So steer point 2 is going to be the IP initial point, and from that, we can find a target point based on a range and bearing from it. So the easiest way to do that is to hold down your middle mouse button and drag, and we can see it's the target's going to be 284 degrees at about 9.9 nautical miles. Let's jump back into the jet. So right now I'm in active pause mode, and let's set up the jet. So first we're going to go to an air-to-ground master mode up here on the ICP, and we'll want to be in CCRP mode or related, like dive toss or LAD. And to do that, of course, we can cycle the nose wheel steering button, or we can come down here to the Smiths page, go to bombing modes on OSB2, and select CCRP. Let's bring this to HSC now. At this point, we'll set up the VIP. And again, what we're going to be doing is we're going to set the VIP from a selected steer point. In this case, is going to be steer point 2. Steer point 2 will act as the initial point, and then from that, based on a bearing and range, we'll define a target point. So we're going to go to list up here on the ICP. On the DED, on the list page, we see button 3, VIP, or a visual initial point. So we're going to hit 3 on the ICP. And now we're in the VIP DED page. At the very top, we have VIP to target with asterisks on either side. To select it and enable the function, we have to hit M select 0 on the ICP. If you don't do that, it's not going to save any of the data. Next, we're going to go DCS switch down, or called dauber down. And here we have the steer point from which the VIP will be calculated. Right now it defaults to steer point 1. We're going to go to the increment decrement rocker and go up to steer point 2. Dauber down, and now we have the target bearing from the initial point, which again in this case is going to be steer point 2. And as we looked at before, it's going to be 2840 and enter. Dauber down, and now we're going to have the range in nautical miles. And again, this is going to be from the initial point, again, steer point 2 in this case, to the target point. And it's going to be 9.9 nautical miles, and enter. Dauber down, and then the elevation, which is going to be just 7 feet, and enter. Dauber down, bring it to the top. Now, what we can also do is we can define what's called a PUP, or a pull-up point. And as the name implies, you can use it as a indication of when to pull up for a pop-up attack, or what I'm going to do in this case, I'll use it as an alignment cue. And what you'll see this through the HUD, and only the HUD, is a circle. So to do it, we're going to go right on the dauber switch, and now we have VIP to PUP with asterisks on either side. And just like before, if we want to enable this function, you have to hit M select 0. Dauber down, it's already defaulted to our steer point 2, perfect. Dauber down again, we have our target bearing, same bearing, 2840, and enter. And now we have the range, and this is going to be anywhere range-wise between the target point and the initial point. In this case, I'm going to make it say 7.0 nautical miles, and enter. And elevation, I'll go 7 feet again. And back out to the CNI. And at this point, our VIP data is all set up and ready to go. Now, before we pause, let's talk a little bit about the steering options, which you really haven't touched on yet. So here on the left MPD, we see an example here on the radar page, here at OSB 10, which is currently set to target as the steering option. And all that means is based on the selected steering option, you'll get steering information. And that's going to be here on the HSI, the arrow here, as well as up on the HUD, the azimuth steering line here. But again, you could have multiple steering options for a steer point, which in this case is steer point 1. So for example, if we went to OA1 and we set that up, we could have completely different steering to OA1. We could have different steering to OA2 and then back to target. So for example, let me go ahead and cycle up to steer point 2, and we've already set this up as our IP, so we can see we have an IP option as our steering option from steer point 2. And again, we can see the arrow here pointing to that location, as well as our azimuth steering line up on the HUD. We've also set a target point, which you can see here. So now the arrow on the HSI and the azimuth steering lines are in relation to the target point. And again, if we had OA1 and OA2, we'd also have potential steering to those as well. And then back to the IP, go back to steer point 1. All that done, let's go ahead and unpause. So we are driving to steer point 1. See it, target is the steering option. And once I pass that, I'm going to go ahead and manually cycle to steer point 2. And steer point 2 will be our IP. Okay, steer point 2. So up ahead, the diamond, that is steer point 2. That is our initial point. I'm now going to set my HUD as my sensor of interest by going up on the display management switch. And right when I'm over this point, I'm going to press forward on the target management switch, or TMIS switch, to set the overflight point. You have to do this. Okay, approaching IP. And IP. Okay, now I'm going to the target point as part of steer point 2. And up ahead, now we can see the circle for the PUP, as well as the square, which is the target point for steer point 2. And we can see that there as well. Okay, driving to the PUP. Okay, getting a good look at the target. I can also use the cursor to adjust my aim point. Up and trigger down, bombs away. Okay, so that's a look at using VIP. Now we're going to take a look at using VRP. To talk about VRP, let's head back to the mission editor again. And as you can see, we're still here in the Persian Gulf map, and I have my route displayed here. The target are again some Evil C-130s. And the key to remember about VRP is that the selected steer point is also going to be the target location. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll select the steer point / target, and then based on a inputted bearing and range, we'll create a reference point from that. So in this case, again, we'll do the ruler tool from that, and we'll make right about here my RP at about 240 degrees at 7.2 nautical miles. And again, we'll put a pull-up point somewhere between them. Okay, so just like we did for VIP, let's start VRP and active pause and get everything set up. First, just like we did before, we'll go to air-to-ground master mode, and we'll go to a CCRP related mode, CCRP, DTOS, or LAD. Next, let's bring up our HSD. And now, just like VIP, we'll go to list. Up on the DED, we see VRP at button 9, so we're going to go 9 on the ICP keypad. And now we're in the VRP DED page with asterisks on either side. In order to enable it, we're going to hit M select 0 on the ICP keypad. Dauber down. So first we have our target, and the target again is going to be the same location as the selected steer point. So in this case, I want the target to be the same location as steer point 2. So I'm going to go increment up on the rocker, dauber down. Then we have our target bearing, and this is going to be the bearing from the target / steer point to the reference point. In this case, 240 degrees, 2400, enter. Dauber down, and then we have the range, amazingly in feet, and you'll have to ask Lockheed Martin why. So we're going to go a whole 43,491 feet and enter. Dauber down, and 6 feet of elevation, enter, and back to the top. Now, just like we had for VIP, we also have a PUP option for VRP. And to do that, just like before, we'll go ahead and go right on the dauber switch, target to PUP, M select to enable, dauber down. It's already set to steer point 2, which is the target location. Dauber down again, target bearing 2400, enter. Range, I want to be about 3 miles, which equates to 18,228 feet. Elevation of 6 feet. Down, back to the CNI. And while we're here, let's go to the steer point page, dauber down, and let's go from manual steer point sequence to auto. And just do that by highlighting the manual auto, then hitting M select, and back to the CNI. So at this point, we're all set up for a VRP attack. Okay, so let's unpause and take a look at this in operation. So again, you can see we're driving to steer 1. Steering option is the target. As you probably noticed, we're here in the Persian Gulf map over on Port of Bandar Abbas. And what I'll be doing is once I hit my pull-up point, I'll do a 30-30 pop-up. So I'll go 30 degrees off, 30 degrees up, and then roll in on the target. Okay, approaching steer 1, and again, once I fly over, it should automatically sequence to steer 2. Okay, we can see our target point and our pull-up point through the HUD there. There is our RP. So I'm going to fly to align to that. So again, once I fly over my RP, it'll automatically cycle to target. You can see the azimuth steering line is currently to my RP. Okay, now cycle to the target, and now the azimuth line is to the target location. But you can see we have our pull-up point circle between the two. I'm going to fly to that and perform my pop-up. Okay. Off. Up. Spot the target. GCIP. And that's how you do a VRP attack. So folks, I very much hope you enjoyed this video on VIP and VRP, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.